I put on a virtual reality headset and started playing a VR ping pong game. The ping pong game was so realistic that for a moment my brain forgot that this wasn't a real game of table tennis. So much so that I tried to put the paddle down on the table and I tried to lean against the table. But of course, there was no table. So the controller fell to the floor and I almost fell over. I had to do one of these double takes like, oh, wait, I'm just in VR. Right? So I started to think about how long would it take us to build something like the Matrix, something that's so immersive that you would forget, right, that you were inside a video game. And so that led me to this idea of the simulation point, which is a kind of technological singularity. But then I started to research things like quantum physics and some of the mysteries around, the observer effect and quantum mechanics. And then I started to look at all the world's religions, and I realized that they're all kind of saying the same thing, which is that there is no physical universe. And so, that led me to the conclusion that we are most likely inside some kind of a computer simulation or a massively multiplayer video game, depending on how you look at it. I teach a class on this at Arizona State University. It's probably the first college level class about simulation theory, and it kind of pulls in science fiction, religion, philosophy, and technology. But one of the key distinctions I tell my students to make, because it's not talked about a lot with simulation theory, is what I call the NPC versus the RPG versions of simulation theory. So NPC, as you probably know, means, non-player characters within video games. So those are the AIs in the video game, the bartenders, the people you're beating up, the opponents, all of that stuff. But basically, they're just code and they're AI. Then there's the RPG version, which is that we are actually doing a role-playing game, right? So you exist outside the game, and then you have a character or avatar inside the game. So it's just like what we would consider an MMORPG today, right? Except with more sophisticated technology. And so in that case, you get a little bit of a different answer than if you talk about an NPC only type of simulation, right? Because that's just running on a computer and we're all AI in that case. Now the two aren't mutually exclusive, right? In a video game like Fortnite or whatever, World of Warcraft, you have NPCs and you have PCs or player characters, right? So you've got both of those things going on. And so depending on how you look at it, you might come to different answers about who's outside the simulation, which would answer the question of who made the simulation. So in the first case, you basically say that if we can get to the point where we can build these simulations, what I call the simulation point. So I call that a kind of technological singularity. Now, we've heard the term singularity mostly because of AI and super intelligent AI, right? And AI is going to take over the world. But the guy who defined the term was actually a computer scientist who became a science fiction writer named Werner Vinge. In fact, he just passed away like a month ago or something. He was a real pioneer in science fiction and the cyberpunk kind of subgenre or so. And so he said the singularity happens when technology increases exponentially to the point where everything will be different for humans after that point. Now, he gave 4 different ways we could reach the singularity. Most of us talk about only one, which is AI starts to become super intelligent and it grows exponentially and everything will be different. But I think this idea of the simulation point where we can create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality. And I lay out 10 stages in my book of all the technology we would need, including brain-computer interfaces, and being able to read, but also then being able to write memories as well. And then so the definition of the simulation point is being able to create a virtual reality that is indistinguishable from physical reality with AI characters that are indistinguishable from biological characters. So, you wouldn't be able to tell you're talking to an NPC. We're getting closer to that already. Yeah, there's companies out there doing smart NPCs now inside video games. If we can do it, now let's imagine a civilization that was 1,000,000 years ahead of us, 1,000 years ahead of us, even 200 years, right? But certainly 1,000 years ahead of us. So where will computers be in 1,000 years? They would already have created these types of simulation, right? Because if we can do it, now 50 years ago, we didn't know if we could do it. We didn't know if computers could get to that point, right? Today, we're pretty sure we can get there. In fact, I'd say that I'm 70% sure that we will get to the simulation point, which means I think there's a 70% chance we're living inside a simulation. And so the point is, if they already got there, they created a whole bunch of simulations, okay? and you can't tell the difference.